What is up, sports fans, and welcome back to another episode of Pez's Picks. I am Jeff Hartman. I am not the man with the picks. That's this guy next to me for watching it on YouTube. Pez, what's going on?
Jeff, we're off and running. 20, what are we at now? 21 and
21
12.
and 12 NFL.
Crushing it, Jeff. We're hitting our wheelhouse. We're really proud of ourselves this past weekend. I like to share a little wisdom in the podcast, Jeff. Sadly, I've probably been gambling since I was 10 or 11 years old. I've been on every angle, taking bets, putting bets, watching bets. So this week I looked at it and I said, oh my God, this is a minefield, Jeff. And we're prouder of this week than we've been any week this season in the NFL. There were a lot of games we liked, and the numbers looked perfect, right? Every box in the algorithms check it. And there's one thing we don't talk about a lot, but the last part of our algorithm, Jeff, is what I call intangibles. And there's a lot of things you can look at there with that injury, weather, traveling, what the team's up to, coaching, trades, etc. But the one thing with intangibles we look at, does that line stick out and make sense to you? And when it doesn't, that tells you something as an experienced gambler. That tells you that either the sports books agree with you that this game's going to be a lot closer than maybe it looks like data wise. There's an old line, Jeff, a little political science line. I don't know, maybe I'm making this one up. Copyrighted if I am, but anybody can collect data. Anybody can compare data, but it's an art to look through the numbers, Jeff, and find what really the numbers are telling you. And last week when I see Kansas City Chiefs giving Vegas 8.5, 9 points, something's not right there, Jeff. That the Vegas stinks, right? I mean, that's a terrible team. But I remind myself, and I talk about this a lot with our colleagues and Pez's Picks. The NFL is a entertainment channel. It's an entertainment industry. It is not a
Absolutely.
purely competitive industry. So there is a script. I'm not saying it's professional wrestling, but it's leaning in that direction. They have invested many, many millions of dollars on supercomputers, AI, people smarter than us to collect data, and they run a season 10,000 times before they set a schedule. They want parity. They want teams to be competitive. They want close games till the fourth quarter, and we're seeing that day in and day out, and we're seeing it more this year than I think we've ever had. So, the Chiefs coming off a huge win in San Francisco, went in as underdogs, little chip on their shoulder, blast that team away. Lowly Vegas, I mean, they don't cover. They win by 7. I mean, that game was up in the air till the end. So, when I looked at this card, I liked the Pittsburgh Steelers, laying 6 at home against the lowly Giants. They did cover, but then we look at Houston, uh, you know, uh, only winning by 3 over the Colts. We look at Baltimore losing to the Cleveland Browns, right? Who sees that coming? Detroit did cover their big number. So there were 6 games that I really liked the favorite, but then you got to look at that line and say you can't take all favorites. You can't like 6 games. And I was talking about it with an old shrewd gambling legend in my circle, the Yogi. You got to read the script a little bit here. And this last week was kind of a realignment week, right? Where we're going to make that league a little bit more parity. We want teams still in it. Jacksonville appears to be a team that might be fire sale on their team. And I hope I'm not coming back to haunt myself because that's going to kind of push us maybe towards the birds this week if that number stays where it is. But it's entertainment. There is an attempt to manipulate these games a little bit, right? I mean, they are attempt to do that. It's not going to happen all the time, but if you have an AI supercomputer generating a schedule telling you this is the one most likely to create these results, it's usually going to happen, right? I mean, these computers. I saw Terminator, Jeff. I think it was 1984. Shocking start of the movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the governor, nude, Jeff. Guy was shocking. It was the first nude man I've ever seen, I think, Jeff. But they take over these computers. You can't fight them, and I think you have to kind of go along with that if you're going to be investing every week, and you got to pump the brakes. And discipline is a lifelong gambling. That's it. You should tattoo it on your heart. You got to be disciplined. You can't jump at the bait, if you will.
So hold on a second. You're bringing up some. This is my wheelhouse. Talk to Coach Kevin Smith. He knows I love conspiracy theories. I think they're hysterical. I love to hear them. Whether there's validity, I don't know. I just like them. I think they're fun. Do you think the officiating in the NFL? You brought up a script. I didn't say that. You brought up the script. But don't think for a second when they're in bed with all these gambling entities that these calls that are happening, especially late in games, I'm sorry, if it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. You buying that sentiment that these officials and these calls that are being made are not tilted one way or the other, whether it's the total, whether it's the spread, whether it's trying to keep it close? You saying that's the way you're thinking?
I don't think it's a script in that way, Jeff. And I think the officiating in the NFL is maybe the purest, because you've got these professional guys with really, most of these guys are CEOs, they're lawyers, they're accountants,
but they
right?
suck, Pez. They're awful.
Well,
The officiating sucks. It's pure, but it sucks.
I think what they told them this year, and I've been watching this a long time, Jeff. There was a time that it was a running back league, and a time where you had to hand the ball off, or your quarterback got knocked out for the season. They changed the rules. You can't tackle the quarterback, below the knee, above the belly button, basically, right? So they changed the rule, and I think part of it, Jeff, is it's a monetary thing. Running backs were demanding, $10-15 million a year, and they're the teams were kind of losing some money in some other areas. So then we go to a quarterback league. Last few years, gunning it out. Last year, I think we talked about it, Jeff. Green Bay and Houston, they gunned that damn ball in the playoffs like I've never seen. I think the league looked at that and said, now we're getting these receivers, 4 or 5 of them, demanding $30+ million a season. It's not healthy for the league, Jeff, to have a $30 million prima donna, Ayuk, who's now sitting on the IR. So I think what they did this offseason, they told the refs, let's start allowing the secondary to play like a playoff game. They are roughing the receivers up. It's become more difficult to throw the ball this year. Scoring is down, interceptions are up, and the running game is back. And you could argue this in a lot of different ways. Is that fair? Are they trying to tilt monetary situations? I think they are a little bit. But when I say a script, I think the league knows who's going to win and lose a lot of these games. They've invested millions of dollars on supercomputers to make these schedules. They don't hide that fact. They played out 10,000 seasons. So there is there's more data than anybody could ever create. I mean, it's AI generated, but I think that they have worked with the refs, and they have an angle each year. This year, it's running. They're going back to defensive ball. I think people got tired of gunning it a little bit. It got a little boring last year, right? Scoring's fun, but without defense, without hitting, I mean, it kind of got a little bland at times. So this year, we're back to hard-nosed football. Running backs are central now. I mean, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Baltimore's coming on with their running. Philadelphia Eagles. Running teams are now winning. Detroit's a little bit of an outlier, but even in Kansas City, I mean, they're lacking Pacheco, but they're still running the ball. And so I think the league is kind of shifting in kind of storyline and kind of theme more than it would be the ref kind of taking bribes. I don't think that's happening, Jeff. I just don't.
Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery from the Detroit Lions would like to have a word with you about the running, because Jared Goff threw for less than 100 yards against the Titans last week, and they still put up like 50 points. So that's neither here nor there.
It's a left-handed layup game there, Jeff. I mean, that Jared Goff is playing a higher level of quarterback than Mahomes and anybody in the league right now.
Absolutely.
And that guy, I mean, I love the situation they have up there. I love the two-headed monster running back. I just hope this keeps going with them, and I think everybody likes the Detroit team, and that's something else to look at. Strength of schedule as well, Jeff. I mean, the New York Jets have the easiest strength of schedule left in the entire NFL. It's one of the easiest remaining schedules in the history of the league, Jeff. They have one more tough game. I think it's this week against Houston. So I'm not a big Jets fan. I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I don't like the situation he's created there, but I still think he can sling that ball. I think that team's going to get better, and that's something we're going to be talking about a little bit this week.
All right. So let's start off. We're going to recap our NCAA and NFL picks here in a second, but I want to talk about the World Series because as of this being recorded, it's not over yet. Now, it could be over depending on how the Yankees do and the Dodgers are winning. You have really kind of said this seems like a wash. It's been an incredible series for a lot of reasons. Freddie Freeman has hit a home run in every single game. I think it's the first time in Major League Baseball history. It's
6 in a row.
Yeah, it's incredible.
6 World Series games in a row, Jeff. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So Freddie Freeman's
foot.
He's what?
He's got a broken foot. I mean, He's been playing on a broken foot. It's unbelievable.
So what's your take on the World Series? I know you haven't been making a lot of plays, but what's your take?
Jeff, we want to, and this is part of the whole discipline conversation we were having. if there's not an advantage in a game, Jeff, we're not taking it. We're not flipping coins. We have to have a mathematical advantage, a numbers-based advantage. I'm just not seeing it with these two teams. They're very, very similar. I mean, they've got power. They've got contact hitting. You can talk. There's differences as pitching. The Yankees maybe a little bit better starting pitching, but their pen and their closing is horrible, right? So Dodgers benefit in that way. And I think the Yankees could have won each of the first two games. I mean, they knocked the ball around pretty well. Friday they didn't do as well. Saturday, but I think last night might have been a wake up call for the New York Yankees. Everybody started hitting it. There's pop in the bat again. Otani, I mean, that shoulder's got to be hurt a little bit. It's got to affect the guy. He had a partial separation. So if we don't have an advantage, and with baseball it's tougher, I would love to take the Yankees tonight. We're still looking at it. That might be a last minute call. Currently, I believe that line is at -1. I mean, we're up to -155, Jeff, and that's a ton of money to be laying out. We could give a run and a half and maybe collect +130, but I don't like giving the Dodgers runs. So, we took them in the series. You'd hate to double down and lose double. Sometimes you have to cut your losses, and I always go back to one of my stupidest gambling episodes, Jeff. I 3-0. The Yanks are up against those Boston Red Sox, and I have them for the series. I hit the first three games. They go down 3-1. Me and all my colleagues, Jeff, we bet every game. Who would have known Manny and Big Pop are in there shooting horse tranquilizers, Jeff? So we're not going to do that. I don't encourage people. You can't chase your money in baseball. You got to see when the opportunity is there. If you have a clear advantage, then you get on it. If not, you just enjoy the game.
All right. So that's baseball is interesting, and gambling on baseball, well, it can be something. We'll put it that way. So let's move on. Let's move on to football. Let's talk about last week. We went 1-1 last week, which is, hey, that's pretty good for us. 1-1. You
bad,
lost
Jeff.
Lost Thursday Night Football, Syracuse at Pitt. Syracuse was spotting 6 and got their doors blown off. That quarterback who you bashed all last year.
I sure did, Jeff.
Boy, did he turn into a pumpkin. I think he threw 3 pick sixes, like another 2 interceptions, just craziness. And yeah, they end up losing, but you do rebound Baylor and Oklahoma State. Go ahead and talk about those, and then let's talk about your picks this week.
We had some management on our call when we started this. We need an investigation into Kyle McCord. They must have Johnny Manziel this guy, Jeff. He went into that game 19 touchdowns to 6 picks, to about 2,400 yards on the season. The guy was playing Heisman caliber football. 3 pick 6 in the first half, Jeff. Who does that? Can't they yank the guy? I mean, what are they? What kind of coaching was that? I watched a lot of that first half, and it wasn't a total blowout until it was, and he threw 2 more. 5 interceptions, Jeff. That's got to be a record in modern Division I AA football, right? So, Division 1A football. So, and that's college. Who knows? Maybe that guy was out. I mean, Pitt. Who knows? Pitt's a fun town, Jeff. I've been there a couple times. Those guys know how to get after it. Guy may have been tailgating. Who knows? You have no answers with college football sometimes. This is why it's college. These are kids. I mean, who knows? Kyle McCord might be 25 years old, but still, he's a kid. If you're in college, you're waking up, your roommate's pulling bong hits at 7:30 in the morning. So, that is a tough situation, and that's why it's tough investing on this. Who would have seen that coming? We weren't too upset about that. I mean, the line was 5 when it closed, so Vegas agreed that this was going to be a close game. We're happy with Baylor, though, Jeff. We pulled out a nice W with them. That is a hard-playing team. They were close last year, doing a lot of good things, and their coach has them playing at a nice high level. They have a lot of talent. I mean, they're not Alabama, they're not a Georgia, they're not a Texas, but hard-playing team. They tackle. And, with teams that tackle in college tend to win, and that's something that you don't see every week in and out, even on these top teams.
Yeah, that's okay. And you did win Baylor. Baylor over Oklahoma State. What did you think about that game?
That's what we're saying. I mean, 1-1, Jeff, and, we'll take Baylor. I like that team. We're looking at them again this week. They beat a good Oklahoma State team last week. And when we look at, the quarterback play, 3 touchdowns, 222 yards, they get 142 yards out of their running back. So when you're getting that type of balanced attack, 142, I mean, they had 343 rushing yards, Jeff. What is that, right? 343 rushing yards. I can't believe Oklahoma State was even in that game. So I like Baylor. I think Baylor is one of those teams that, you have a tier. They're not a top 12 team, but they are a top next 12 team probably. I think they win this week. They're going to be in the rankings. You got to be 500 to make a bowl. We're getting towards the end here. I mean, we're 8 games in college, so these guys got to make bowl games. Coaches got to make bowl games, or your recruiting is crap. And I mean, I don't know what it even means with the NIL. If you're not in the bowl game, I don't know. They're probably not going to have anything. So I like Baylor a lot, and we're going to be looking at them again this week.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's hard to believe that this Friday is November. Like we're in November, so yeah, it's coming to a close quickly. But what about your plays this week? What are you thinking on the college side?
So with college, and this is a little bit of an off week, Jeff. We have a lot of big dogs sitting out this week, but currently, I am very confident about this play, Jeff. And I, sometimes we question lines around here. Sometimes we question what are the bookmakers looking at? Ohio State laying 3.5 at Penn State. Quarterback is banged up, Jeff. Is a game time decision for the Nittany Lions. Ohio State, when we look at the numbers, it's not a comparison, Jeff. I mean, we're talking about Ohio State, ninth ranked offense in the league. Penn State does come in with the 4th ranked defense, but I think that's a little bit inflated, Jeff. It's just my opinion. But then we have Ohio State. We have the 2nd rated defense in the country up against a decent Nittany Lion offense, but without that quarterback, they're 13th in the country. With him, without him, I mean, that's got to drop into 30s or 40s. So, we look at results. Ohio State 1 loss at Oregon. I know we took Ohio State in that game. We didn't cover, I don't believe, but they've beaten some good teams, Michigan State, Nebraska. When we look at Penn State, the resume isn't as strong, Jeff. Kent State, UCLA, USC, even Wisconsin. So I love this game. It's an early game, so home field advantage isn't as big when you have a noon start in college football. You let those Penn State kids get drunk all day, Jeff. That's a tough place to play. But, I mean, they'll be drunk anyway, but not as drunk. So high noon game, question mark on the quarterback. We're going to be keeping an eye on that line. It hasn't been announced yet.
So no line yet?
Well, it's minus 3.5 right now. Ohio State, the line opened.
Ohio State giving 3?
Giving 3.5. It opened 5.5. So people are still jumping on Penn State. To me, that is a bargain, Jeff. That's what we look for. That's an advantage right there. We're getting 2 free points. I don't know what the deal is. Why is that line going down when it appears that Drew Aller, their quarterback, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions for Penn State, he's not going to be playing? Why is that line going down? I don't know. But we're going to jump on it. Sometimes, when you see that advantage, and at Penn State, there's a lot of money on them every week. I mean, I'm in South Jersey here down the beach. We got these annoying Nittany Lion fans everywhere, Jeff. They got the stupid paws on their cars, and a lot of the old timers live down here at the beach and Avalon, all these rich guys, Jeff. So to hell with the Nittany Lions, Ohio State Buckeyes. We're 100% taking that game, Jeff. Unless the quarterback's out and that line jumps to 14. I mean, that would be a difference. But that's something to remind everybody. We're talking about these games on Wednesday. If they're not on Instagram, we're not taking them. And pay attention on Instagram. We're going to try something this week and try and get some of these games out a little bit earlier, probably on Friday, maybe NFL and college, give people a little bit more time. They're a little tough, though, because things change. I mean, Saturday morning things change. So we're going to do our best with that. But Ohio State, we love it. As we say on Instagram, lock that up, Jeff.
All right. So, at Pez's Picks is the handle for both Twitter and Instagram. And that game, correct me if I'm wrong, that is in Happy Valley, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And Ohio State's played there. I mean,
Yeah.
Ohio State's got a big stadium. So, I like betting top teams against top teams. You're not going to have, like what we saw with Nebraska, they went in Indiana and got rolled. I mean, I don't think they were ready for that situation. And they came back and played great against Ohio State. So Ohio State's going to be ready for anything. I mean, there's no stadium that they haven't played at. So we love them.
All right. So how many plays do you have in college this week?
We've got one more, Jeff, a sneaky team. We've got the Vanderbilt Commodores, Jeff, which is a weird thing. I know I bashed them a little bit earlier in the year, but getting 7, Jeff. And, when we look at the numbers here, at Auburn, taking Vandy, plus the 7. This is another one that's puzzling to me, Jeff. Vanderbilt has built a very impressive resume. I mean, we all saw what they did, a couple weeks ago against Alabama. Their coach is a guy that doesn't, he doesn't have these guys thinking that, hey, we're just lucky underdogs. He's got believers, Jeff, and they came within a hair of beating Texas, which would have been, to me, That would have been the most shocking upset to beat Alabama and Texas, this Vanderbilt team. I've been to their stadium, Jeff. It's a cool campus. It's a lot of rich kids, whatever. Right off of Nashville, but the stadium itself is small. It looks like a big college stadium. I guarantee in Texas there was way bigger high school stadiums. So it to me is a tough place to play. But they are going to Auburn. When we look at Auburn's results, they lost to Missouri, they lost to Georgia, they lost to Oklahoma, they lost to Arkansas. They beat a lowly Kentucky team. So and when we punch the numbers. Offensively, a tiny bit of a data advantage. Defensively, both teams are solid. And I think Vanderbilt is peaking right now. They've got a great quarterback, this Pavia, 13 TDs, the 3 picks. He's a hard-ass guy. He runs. He's a gamer, Jeff. And this guy, they believe they are a good team. And in college, I played a little college soccer. The games we went into, we're like, man, we're going to get smoked. We got smoked, Jeff. In college, you got to create a believing team, and they do. I think they roll in there. They beat Auburn. And I think Vandy is a team, maybe with a tiny bit of luck, maybe they jump into that top 12. They get another win or two, Jeff. And I really believe that they are a solid, good team. Probably the best Vanderbilt team they've ever had.
All right. So there you have 2 plays. Again, make sure you're checking out our Instagram and Twitter feed so that you get the up-to-date odds and picks. Because like last week, to give an example, there were 2 games that we were leaning towards and we didn't take. So remember, this is being recorded on Wednesday. A lot can change in that amount of time. Now, the NFL, this has been our bread and butter again, as expected. We went 2-0 last week. You took your Birds going into Cincinnati, and they double them up 34-17. And then you took the Commanders over the Bears. The Commanders were getting 2.5 in that spot, but they got the Hail Mary to cover. So what were your thoughts on those 2 games? Your Birds look pretty good.
Jeff, I hate to say this, Jeff, because you end up screwing yourself. But in the gambling world, lines were never off, right? I mean, they were scrutinized because all gamblers did up until this online legal gambling was straight bets, Jeff. I mean, you might put in what we called a reverse. That was a popular bet. A reverse is when you would bet 2 games. So $100 reverse, you would have to pick 2 games. And if you hit, you won $400. If you lost $220. So we didn't have parlays I mean, they were out there, but nobody was betting those, Jeff. So I honestly feel like there are advantages and bargains every week. And, I don't think they're scrutinizing these numbers as much, Jeff, because going into this game, Philly was a overall top 10 ranked offense and defense, and the Bengals were far from that. I know Joe Burrow going into that game, he had some pretty decent numbers going into it, but against some fraud teams. And, I'm not in the NFL, Jeff, you can't be a quarterback with frosted tip hair. The guy's got frosted tips. What is he, in the Barbie movie, Jeff? What the hell is that? No wonder the Steelers win every year. I'm starting to figure it out, Jeff. The Bengals, they should cut that guy. What is that? That to me, the Eagles were insulted by him. They pounded the hell out of that. I think, I was talking about it. There's a lot of Eagles talk around where I'm at. 3rd year in a row, Jalen Hurts has had the 3rd different coordinator. So I think they're now starting to get into a rhythm. They're starting to figure out who their identity is. They're going to pound that ball. And 2 weeks ago, people attacked Jalen like he's missing the kind of the dump off passes. The guys are wide open. You saw him. He is looking to throw 40, 50-yard bombs when they're there. And when you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they're going to be opportunities. And Jalen has a excellent, accurate, long throw, probably better than his short throws. And, we saw it this week. I love the way the Eagles are playing. The defense, Vic Fangio. Jeff, this guy, I think they had a 14-minute opening drive, the Bengals, right? It's 13 minutes or something ridiculous. And, it looked like, Bengals are going to run down the field. This guy makes better in-game adjustments than any defensive coach I've ever seen. Halftime adjustments are tough. This guy on the fly, he makes adjustments and can shut teams down, especially throwing pocket quarterbacks for whatever reason. He's good at shutting them down. And this week we're looking at another one, Jeff. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we're excited for the Birds.
Well, the play of the game, because I watched a good portion of that game as a Steeler fan, wanting the Birds to win, was when the Birds in their own end, I think they're around their own 40-yard line, decided to go for a 4th and a really long one. And they do a swing pass to Jamar Chase. Cooper DeJean has a great play. And after that play, the whole game shifted. The whole thing. Because I believe that is the series that Jalen Hurts hit Devontae Smith for a touchdown. It's like the floodgates opened. And so it was that one dumb decision by the Bengals, instead of just punting the ball away and trusting your defense to try and it was close. It was close up until that point, and then everything changed. So
yeah, we talked about it, Jeff. I think we put it out on Twitter. The Birds scored late in the first half, making the Birds were down 10-13 going into halftime. They scored late. There is significant data, Jeff. Teams that score last in the first half win way more than they lose. They win outright.
Yeah.
Especially when a team scores late in the first half, whoever scores late in the first half, if they get the ball first in the second half, Birds ran right down, scored a touchdown. So they went from within 2 minutes, whatever play, down 13-10 to they're up 17-13, then the floodgates open. I mean, that is coaching to me. That is disciplined play. If the Birds can start scoring some first quarter points, I think they're going to be a team that we thought we were going to. Well, we saw them last year, Jeff, and I don't know what happened. It was something with Jalen and AJ and a girl. I don't know. It's two reality show, Jeff. I don't know what the hell happened there.
All right, so the Bears and Commanders was a very entertaining football game, and the finish there saved your rear end. Any thoughts on that one?
Played out like we thought we would. I mean, Caleb Williams, 131 yards passing. That's not getting the job done. They did run the ball really well. Washington a little bit sloppy on offense, but Daniels throwing 326. They only scoring 18 points. So, their red zone efficiency wasn't great, which you're going to have with a team like that. But I think at the end of the day, that play worked out like it should have. Was it a last second miracle play? Of course, but in the gambling world, Jeff, we call that we played that, Jeff. We saw that Hail Mary coming. I think he threw that ball 70 yards in the air or something. Like it was
65, I think, around there.
It's like that guy's got a cannon, Jeff. I like him. I like him a lot. In NFC East, it's fun to have good quarterbacks in there. And I think there's a decent future for the Redskins or Commanders. Their defense is solid. I mean, that's something that's underrated, I think, with that team, even though they sold some of those defensive linemen. But I like the Commanders a lot. And, I think the Bears are going to have growing pains. And, I'm still not sold on Caleb Williams. I think he's a little undersized. I think he gets a little squirrely. His footwork, Jeff, is bad. That's something Pez's Picks analyzes with our in-house quarterback expert, the guru, action man. Bad footwork in the NFL spells turnovers, right? I mean, if you're throwing off your back foot, if your feet aren't set, Caleb Williams does a lot of that. Patrick Mahomes, there ain't many of them out there. That guy can throw off a pinky toe, but Caleb Williams seems a little shifty in there. Where we look at Daniels, that guy has presence in the pocket, and that's not a guy I'm going to bet against a lot, Jeff. I like his style a lot.
Now, I got to say, before we move on to this week, I'm a 41-year-old man with a college degree and a bunch of education after that. The Steelers haven't lost a home Monday Night Football game since I was in middle school, and you didn't take the Steelers and Mike Tomlin and Russell Wilson at home, and they cover. I was kind of disappointed that you didn't take them.
Jeff, at the end of the day, my wife got on me a little bit about this, Jeff, and she's very attractive, so I take a lot of abuse from her. But anyway, she said, "You're only 2-0. Why aren't you taking the game?" I looked at her. I said, "Oh, only 2-0." So to put this in perspective, if you're 2-0 and you're betting $100 a game, you're up $200. If you then wager the Monday night game and lose, now you're up $90. $90. I mean, I got one kid and a wife. I'm dropping $50, $60 at Chipotle takeout, Jeff. These people are ordering 2 burritos each. So $200. I'm taking them over to Lake City. We're hitting a classic restaurant over there, Jeff, called Chef Vola, which is it's a house with no sign and no phone number. You just kind of walk in and they go reservation. Yeah, if you call, they just say hello. You got to have some code words. It's an Italian thing, Jeff. But Chef Vola with 200. You ain't getting in there with 90. So on Monday night, I think you have to show a little discipline. This week, I was so proud of us. There are a lot of games I liked in college and pro, Jeff, but I said to myself, these lines don't look right. Something doesn't feel right. So 2-0, we're happy.
All right.
I thought it was a 50-50 game. And just like in baseball, when it's a 50-50 game, and I think the Steelers are a way better team, but 50-50, including that number, I thought the Steelers, and it almost happened, they're going to be up, 21-10, give up a late touchdown, just kind of milk the clock. So I apologize, Jeff. I love the Steelers. That team wins us a lot of money. I love that team. I love them.
All right. How many plays do you have this week?
So, another tough week, Jeff. And again, let's follow this on Instagram. But as of now, Jeff, I feel sick saying this, but the data is there. The situation is there. This point of the season, there is a litany of data. So, do I think Houston is a better team than the New York Jets? Absolutely. We are taking the Jets right now, -2, situationally, at home. And when you look at Houston, Jeff, I've never seen an injury report this big. Right? I mean, their whole team is out. Offensive line, Diggs done for the season. I think that's a big emotional loss for that team. They're scrapping away. Collins is out. I, I looked at their receivers. Jeff, they've got a bunch of second-year guys, second-year receivers in the league. Unless you were a first-round pick, you ain't getting much done out there, especially against the Jets defense, who, when we look at, I think are a little bit underrated. Um, I mean, against the pass, they're second in the league, Jeff. They're only giving up 180 yards a game. I think this game spells Jets. As long as Aaron isn't going crazy and throwing picks, I think this is a game that they win. It's been a couple weeks. Devontae Adams has been there. I think this is a game the Jets got to get winning a little bit. It's a must-win game, right? I mean, you go 2-7, you're probably not making the playoffs. So 3-6 is something they can kind of maybe build out of. Maybe look to get maybe like 9-8, maybe even 11, and whatever. My math is slipping me 8 or 11-7. So I think it's a must-win game for the Jets. I think it's an emotional loss for Houston. I love it. Taking the Jets, Jeff. And I'm worried about this one, but we're all over this one.
You're taking your buddy Aaron Rodgers. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it.
That guy still got the gun, Jeff. I mean, that lunatic can still hum it. And when we look at defensively, the Jets are a solid team, and they've been up against they've been backed into a corner a lot of these games, and they're still playing strong defense. Coaching change, as well as I do, Jeff. Steelers fans know this better than anybody. Change is bad in the NFL. Change is horrible. You've had 3 coaches in 80 years or something, right? And
it's 1969.
It's insane, Jeff. So that tells you how much consistency and how much a coach means. And they shift in the middle of the year, and I'll blame Rodgers, but whatever. That's 2 weeks ago. These guys are getting paid. Hassan Reddick is back.
That's right.
I think that's a big help. And the O-line in Houston's banged up, and I just hope my man CJ doesn't get hurt, Jeff. I love that kid.
All right. What's another play?
So, as of now, Jeff, we're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, this line opened at 4.5. It's up to 7.5. If this line gets to 8.5 or more, I don't think we're taking it. I mean, we're going to really have to look at the numbers and punch them here. Trevor Lawrence can hurt you. If you're not getting pressure on that kid, he can throw an accurate ball. But at the end of the day, Jeff, there are just significant numbers to take the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, number 7 ranked defense in the league, up against a mediocre offense. Our offense, 8th in the league, up against the 29th defense in the league. So the data is there, but it's a little bit like, why are the Chiefs only laying 8.5 or 9? I'm a little worried about that. We're going to punch the numbers a little bit more. Eagles at home, coming off 2 road games, and they're feeling good about themselves. I think they have their identity. When we look at the defense of Jacksonville, they're 9th against the rush, 30th against the pass. So how much of their will are the Eagles going to be able to push? And we got an old Eagles coach down there. It's my only concerns. But as of now, we're going to take the Eagles currently at -7.5. If that goes up, though, we're going to take that one off the board.
So something to think about here is that the Jacksonville Jaguars are not as beat up as the Texans are. Christian Kirk, done for the year, collarbone. Brian Thomas Jr., he's injured. Evan Ingram, keep an eye on him. If he's out, shoot, you spot him the 7.5 and you still probably cover.
They're dumping offensive linemen, right? I mean, it seems like they're waving the white flag, and coach is probably gone. So I love all that. And hopefully we're taking that when that line doesn't shoot too much, Jeff.
All right. Any others, or is that it for now? And you're going to take a look and see how things pay out?
We've got one more. We've got Detroit at Green Bay. Detroit again. I mean, there's about 11 teams in the league right now, Jeff, that are above 500 against the spread, and of course the Steelers, and of course Detroit are there, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Jordan Love, questionable right now. So we're going to monitor that injury. I think he has a hurt groin, which that makes it tough to throw that ball. I mean, if there's any hotter in the team than the Detroit Lions, I don't know who it is. When we punch the numbers, same thing, Jeff. I mean, we've got the 6th best offense in the league up against Green Bay's 15th overall defense. And Green Bay's not good at stopping the pass, so I don't know. I almost feel like this situation seems too easy. They're fifth in the league, the Lions defense up against a decent Green Bay running team, but without Jordan Love, I mean that they're just going to shut that run down. And I think a hobbled Jordan Love is a great opportunity for Detroit to get another win under their belt. I like Green Bay. I think they've got some game left in them, but I think they're also a little banged up. So that's a game we have earmarked. Currently, Green Bay plus 3.5. But if that line keeps shooting up, I think that's tough. Dome teams going outside, everybody knows this. I mean, that makes it a little more difficult, but the weather looks like it's going to be okay. If it's raining, that's another thing we're going to take a look at, Jeff. We might take that one off the board. Currently predicted to have maybe a little bit of rain. If it's going to downpour all day, we're not taking Jared Goff outside and downpour, Jeff. My man Jared Goff, he likes climate-controlled games. I mean, that guy, he doesn't like getting his hair wet or something, Jeff. And I like him back there, but I think at some point Hutchinson being out, it's got to hurt that team. It really hasn't yet, but I think at some point teams are going to look at tape and figure out that there's a glaring hole missing there, right? I mean, this guy he's a game-changing player, and I don't think anyone has kind of found that opening and kind of manipulated that yet. And I'm hoping it's not this week, but we're leading Detroit right now.
All right, perfect. All right, Pez, we'll see how things play out. Any final thoughts for the week?
Jeff, great weekend. The leaves are changing. Take the family out for breakfast, Jeff. It's something we talk about a lot on Pez's Picks. You want to get a lot of football in. Take the family out. Get them a nice breakfast. I like at 8:30 a.m., Brian. I like getting out early, maybe 7:30. And then you look like the hero. You come back, you fiddle around in the front yard, you end up on the couch. Nobody says a word to you, Jeff. We may be doing some sort of Instagram live situation on Sunday too, Jeff. We're talking with our tech bro guy, Darren, the intern from Seinfeld, from Cramerica, Jeff. So we might have some sort of question and answer kind of live feed during the games, and that's something I'm going to be talking about with him, and maybe some live in-game plays, Jeff, which I find insane to do, especially if you're drinking, Jeff. And I've done stuff like that in Vegas, but I don't recommend it too much. But that we might be doing that. Keep an eye on Instagram. We'll be coming at it with that.
Awesome. I'll be looking forward to that. In the meantime, enjoy the games, Pez. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
All right, later.